How you doing, guys? ZDEyE here. So today I'm going to be talking about so much more information and details that recently emerged for the Cyberpunk 2077. And yes, this means that quite a few informations you may already know, but a lot of other informations you would definitely, I expect anyway, that you would not know. For example, one of them is such as that this game is actually going to have a very realistic sex scenes. Basically, yes, it will be mocapped. Yes, they were... Yeah, I think that I do have to explain that. Maybe I do. Maybe I should do it. When I get there, I'll explain it. Yeah, anyway, it's YouTube. You can't really talk about these things as such. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to waste your time. Let's just get into it. There were plenty of informations, right? Let's just start off from the simple one to the story-wise. Don't worry, there's going to be barely any spoilers. I don't consider them to be more or less spoilers. It's just the features in the game that you are capable of doing it. So, now, it's regarding the question that was actually presented regarding Johnny, as such as played by Keanu, and that basically mentions that there might be some kind of possibility of completely destroying the world in Cyberpunk. Now, it's not going to be up to the degree of scale destruction that you would be probably expecting, like down to the wastelands. No, you're never going to expect that, at least not from this game, at least not yet. And now, if we do continue, I wanted to mention regarding the terms of the length. How long is the game? Now, the main story for the comparison of Cyberpunk 2077 might be actually shorter than The Witcher 3, but will be made up to be much of a higher replayability value. However, at the same time, they still didn't measure the length of the entire game with all the encounters. And of course, smaller quests accounted for, only that the main story and the major side quests. This, I don't know, I want to, sprinkle in my opinion about this. I don't know necessarily if that's a good thing. I play my games usually because I like the linear approach. I'm not really down for replayability value if how you can go with a different story-wise. I'm just one of those guys, like I like more of a linear approach because I like to see how they will be able to tell this specific story. Don't get me wrong, I do like different paths in your own story, right? Like Witcher 3 is an example. It didn't do to a major degree of the differences that you could have made. It really didn't. But there were a lot of differences that you could still choose to do so. Now, Cyberpunk is going to be far heavier on that front. I'm not going to deny that. I'm still 120% looking forward to it. And I'm definitely going to explore every little nook and cranny of how this game will turn out to be. And I'm going to see everything that it has to offer. So yes, I'm still looking forward to this game. Cannot wait. Now, regarding of the useless loot, I do not know why this specifically was mentioned the next category to be a useless loot, but whatever. They're actually aiming, CD Projekt Red is aiming to keep the balance between loot that will be useful for the player and one that will be useless from player's perspective. The reason why they are keeping loot that's useless for the player is that even if it's useless for them, it's still something that was useful for the character in the game, and it wouldn't be logical for all the NPCs to carry only stuff that is beneficial for the player. In other words, their goal is to utilize that useless stuff as the way to expand the world building of the game by including as parts of the loot. Think like makes sense for the location and we're exploring or enemies we fight, even if it's something that we as a player may disregard simply as junk. Regarding this explanation, it wasn't actually made by CD Projekt Red himself, so this is why a lot of, what I've just read through here could have made sense. It does seem a little confusing. Maybe I could summarize it better in my words. Basically, anything that you find is a useless loot that you consider, it still will be quite viable in the Cyberpunk's world. You can still find reasons to it and why they would be there. It's not like, for example, a banana skin you will find it around the world as an example, right? Right, that's literally junk, right? You can't do anything with it. But there's always some kind of recyclability that you will be able to attach. Now, this is just an example. I'm not saying it's actually going to be in the game that, for example, like a banana skin, you'll find it. That's just my example. I'm giving it to you, so it would make more sense because this description that was written here, it's not a very good one. Now, again, this is not me writing all this stuff, what I'm reading anyway to you guys, I'm hopefully making sense for you. So whenever I try to explain my reasoning, I will leave down links below in the description where I'm getting this article from, and the descriptions as well. So you must blame this guy or whoever he is, and with such a bad writing and bad explanations. All right, well, let's go to the next bullet point about the option to continue to play the game after the ending. Now, the response was that they found a really cool way to do it, but it's something for the players to see. They definitely want for the player to enjoy their game as long as possible. I mean, that makes sense, right? I think it's a nice way. It's like you don't actually see that you finish the story, then you're going into the end game, but instead you can be a part of that story and also doing the end game at the same time. So you don't actually aim to finish the game first to enjoy the other contents later. Like, they're not trying to do that for you. What they're trying to do, well, I should say Cyberpunk, well, CD Projekt Red, is trying to achieve something different, and maybe not too many people will be expecting. And I personally like that far more. I simply hate, for example, I see that particular enemy or boss or whatever, and I just know because I'm way under leveled or I'm way underpowered, I will never be able to kill him. If you have that option, you still will be able to manage to kill him. Now, it will take a little bit longer for you to achieve it, but still it is an option. That's what matters, and that's what I care. The other also bullet point, let's continue. While most of the time waiting for too long before picking a dialogue option will only result in the persons that you're having a conversation with throwing some annoying comments at you. And in some situations, like during the conversation with Royce and Dum Dum from the previous demo, doing that will have consequences. So basically, it's not like simply just saying, whenever they're just saying like, oh, come on, what's wrong with you? Why are you so slow? Come on, do your thing, right? There's gonna be a little bit more to it. It's not just gonna be these characters telling you, come on, hurry up, what are you doing? It's over here. You could get very annoying in some parts of that. Okay. Now, about the side quests, The Witcher 3 quest structure was compared to the single line, with a bunch of branches sticking out of it, which would sometimes go back to that of a single line. In Cyberpunk 2077, those branches grow more branches, basically, which then often tie around each other. That means if that makes sense, that the side quests that we decide to do, I should probably elaborate that a little bit better, will often evolve into more side quests, and those quests will have an impact on the other quests, as well as the main storyline, to a much greater extent than they did in The Witcher 3. Thanks to all those branches, it will be hard to find one playthrough, which will be whichever, it will not be exactly the same, of course. Let me explain. My god, this description is the best, isn't it? Now, so basically, whenever you have a single player, the story, you continue through the story, sometimes these side quests will open up and they will be tying in nicely. And if you would like to more about the lore, about these characters, or whatever, maybe you just simply like to play the game, that's all. And you play these side quests and ties up nicely to the story-wise. That's the same thing can be done and said even if you finish the story, but then you wanted to play the side quest after. So, when you finish these side quests, you also have options and choices, right? It opens up more paths for you to take. Basically, there's going to be side quests. Wow, that's a great explanation. Basically, it's not going to be just one simple side quest. There's going to be a lot more to it. A side quest giving you other objectives that you have to make that decision. So it's going to be a lot bigger in a scope. But basically a butterfly effect, if you guys know it, would make more sense, right? You could have different endings as that story could be improvised. Basically, you start up the story. If you do not do the side quest, you might not find out what the hell happens next. If you do the side quest and you do far more than that, you might have a better ending or worse. Right, a butterfly effect. I think it's perfectly summarized, hopefully. Now, let's get into the category of the gameplay, right? The question was if the access to certain locations will be blocked based on the choices that we made. Like, for example, the second act of The Witcher 2. Most locations should be still available for us to visit, no matter what choices we'll make. But our choices might determine to what extent we get to explore those places. Some locations, however, won't be available outside of the certain paths, just so you know. Well, I mean, that's self-explanatory already. Basically, you will be able to get to anywhere you would like, but also there are some parts that just simply will not be open because you perhaps went with a different decision or different route. And now if you want to see those options, well, replay the game, that's one of the options. Or maybe down the line, when you do continue, you have a chance of actually coming back to this section that it will open up later, even if you believe that you lost that opportunity at first. Now, about the car customizations, they know this is a pretty often requested feature, but they're asking for a little more patience before they will say anything about it. Sounds like they do have some kind of plans for that. So yes, it seems like there's going to be a little bit more to it, but we didn't get any clarifications on that. But still. Now, while we won't be able to buy new apartments, these apartments will look differently based on a life path we choose. It will change in some ways over the time. They also included a certain mechanics tied to these apartments, which will allow us to express the personality of our V through it, but it's something that they want for the players to discover on their own. Now, one thing for certain I wanted to mention this. If we're thinking about, I'll give you an example, a Death Stranding. If you play the game, guys, basically over the story of that you progress through, you notice on your desk and in the figurine section where that you're trying to show it off, you can see all the stuff that you have done to get to this point, kind of an achievement of the rewards that you can see. Just a cosmetic look to it. It's nice. Now, I actually hope it's not going to be the same thing in Cyberpunk. I really hope there's going to be more than just simply cosmetic how your apartment will look like. I hope that it's not going to be, for example, well, this time there was only one chair beside the table, now there's 4 chairs because you're getting richer, so you're getting more money, so you end up buying it without even you knowing about it. Okay, maybe that was a bad explanation. Let's say, for example, you go into the gun armory room as an example, right? You saw a katana over there was empty, but there was no katana in it. But after the story, you continue and you get an accessibility of using the katana. Perhaps you kept it for yourself, and that's where you shelve it. Basically, that's where you keep your katana, right? That makes sense in some regards. And of course, you will be able to take that katana for your own and bring it to anywhere you want. And I just hope it's not going to be just simply the cosmetic look of your apartment that will change or add up some things. I hope there's going to be a little bit more to it. And yes, I also hope that you have that kind of customization ability. Now, it may be an overstretch of imagination on my part, but still, it would be nice. I'm not saying it's necessary or I'm demanding it. No. But still, I would like to see something like so. Now, about the health regeneration, we were able to restore our health using the consumables like food and a drug inhaler. Some of those inhaling items will have an instant healing effect, while others will just slowly restore our health over the time or work only under the right circumstances. There's also a cyberware which will provide us with health regeneration. No, I'm gonna use that. However, it'll take a spot that could be used for a more useful piece of the cyberware. And as such, we have seen actually already as a little bit of a glimpse, but unfortunately all of that stuff that we've seen from the 40 to 50 minutes gameplay, all that stuff will be quite irrelevant at that point. A lot of things will be changed. That's already a given. Even CD Projekt Red even themselves said it, that unfortunately everything is subject to change, and I definitely know that the menu and the structure of it will be changed. Hell, we even gotten a change since how you can customize your own character at the very beginning of the game. Now, they are aiming to make it car physics, while not this simulator level, but definitely more realistic than actually something of the Grand Theft Auto. That's a big feat. That's actually a very big feat. If they manage to pull that off, that's going to be incredible, because the Grand Theft Auto physics is quite incredible, and what they're trying to pull off. Like Grand Theft Auto 4 as an example, it was more on a realistic side, but was also kind of very floaty. Grand Theft Auto 5 was more of a simulation of the driving. For example, you can control your car while you're in mid-air, so that made no sense, but still, it was a ton of fun to be using it. Day-night cycle have a pretty organic impact on the gameplay. During the quest, some places might be less or more guarded based on the time of the day, or in the night you may find some guards already sleeping, making it easier for you to sneak in. Some story scenes might also change depending on the time of the day they are taking places in. Well, that's a kind of a given. We already actually have seen something like this in many other games as well. About the difficulty setting, that's kind of interesting as well. While they would want to include as many differences as possible between each difficulty level beyond just stronger and tougher enemies. Due to the huge scope of the game, it might be pretty difficult, so they can't promise anything. It is still too early to even talk about this, to be honest. But still, I don't want the enemies just simply getting stronger or more of them. They need to be smarter. I think that's more important. Like the way the Jedi Fallen Order does it. Now, that's actually pretty well done. Police won't intervene when they see you committing some of the smaller crimes, like for example beating up some random dude on the street, because their threat it's just an everyday occurrence in the night city. But if they see you committing more extreme crimes, like pulling out a gun and shooting the bystanders or driving through them with your car, they will be absolutely trying to fry your ass. And yeah, that's kind of good. Actually, Grand Theft Auto, that's a lot more. For example, if you start to fight one of the guys, sometimes you can get away with it. But if 2 to 3 and just escalates by the minute, obviously the cops are gonna be called in and they're gonna be going after your ass and fucking trying to kill you, not actually bust you. Now, talking about this, I actually like this. It makes sense. In Cyberpunk, for example, it's a lot more tougher environment. Well, even though there are 6 different distinctive districts, police will be different in all those districts. As such as the gangster place, there will be a lot, more opportunities for you to kill guys if you want to. But if you're going to be more of a high end, obviously the cops are going to be a lot more strict. Reaching the border of the playable world will work the same way as it did in The Witcher 3. So you're informed about getting close to it, and then game will forcefully turn you back. That's kind of unfortunate. It kind of reminds me of Grand Theft Auto 4 style. For example, you could not cross the bridges, but if you do, you're gonna get like a 4 to 5 star warning, and it's just gonna be cops are gonna be all over you. That kind of sucks, to be honest. But still, I can understand why that is necessity of to implement. Dynamic weather won't affect the gameplay. That's kind of unfortunate, but the world will react to it. For example, the rain, some people will pull out their umbrellas, while the ones who don't have those will look for a place to hide from the rain. That's kind of unfortunate. Let me get into that a little bit. Is regarding the acid rain. It's been already confirmed that there will be some kind of acid rain. I think we actually have more information on that. If not, I will make sure to actually explain it. Player will be able to craft pretty much any usable items, with the exception of clothes and cyberware. However, it will be possible to craft different modifications for those, which will allow modification on their stats and of the way they look. So yeah, just so you know, you will not be able to fully customize your own body. Your limbs will be able to. Your eyes and as such, perhaps your mouth, your ears and stuff like that, you will be. But, completely changing of what you look like completely and look like a goddamn robot, no, you will not have that opportunity. Now, it's necessary as well because you will be losing your humanity on that part. More on that because I don't want to talk a little bit about this because I don't know full extent of this information. Plus, CD Projekt Red always tries to keep their cards close to their chests. Now, just as well, car racing minigame is not going to be just a traditional car racing. They will also add some kind of extra cyberpunk touch to it, which will allow us to really test the speed and limits of our cars. That's kind of interesting. I like the way it's actually mentions as well a minigame. So basically you will have some kind of extra playabilities. Does that make sense? Basically you will be able to play a game in the game. Alright, well, regarding the question about the ability to own some kind of a cyber pet in the game, the answer was that they know something about it, but they simply won't tell. I don't think it was referencing Flathead, just so you know, since they talked about it on the other responses as well. Such as, for example, cyber pet, a lot of people want is just, for example, you have a dog right next to you, always accompanying you. Or maybe cyber pet, you can have a modified dog. And that would be actually freaking epic, wouldn't it? Like your dog goes into your car, goes into your apartment, sleeps with you if that's what you want. And maybe not a dog, maybe you can get a cat as an example, or maybe something else. I don't know, that would be quite interesting. I would love to see if there will be some kind of implementations of that. If not, well, it's not really a big deal in my personal opinion, but still I would love to see something like it. Also, I just mentioned about the flathead. It's actually going to be just one of the tools of techie disposal and will be useful in the specific situations, just so you know. Well, that was already a given. About how destructibility of the environment is, we will be able to destroy around 3/4 of assets around us, but of course we won't be able to go as far as like utterly destroying the damn place. As I already mentioned, you will not be able to make this game into the wasteland that, you know, from the beginning to an end, if that makes any sense, like probably dropping a nuke. And no, it's not gonna be like that still. I mean, I can understand why that is the case, but also kind of unfortunate, but still, it is a given. Their goal, just so you know, is to make every playstyle equally valid and to not favorize one over the another. You know, basically balancing out the game as we're talking about it. Now, we should talk about the animations. They're preparing a unique set of the animations for every major character in the game for things like movement, conversations, and combat. Can't really talk a little bit about it because I personally don't know. Well, I don't think any one of us knows about this. One simple thing that wasn't as simply at all was such as the crucial feature like skipping cutscenes and dialogues. Since the game doesn't have a traditional cutscenes like The Witcher 3 did, they couldn't just leap through the scenes like in their previous game, without taking the player out of the experience. In fact, they developed around 10 different prototypes such as just that of the feature. But ultimately they found out a really cool solution that seems to be very satisfied with. But again, it's something that they wish for the players to experience for the first time on their own, so we don't really know much about it. Now about the sex, and I already mentioned it at the very beginning. They did a lot of mocap for those that they believe that their amount should satisfy everyone, which should calm down anyone who assumes that they will just skip those entirely just because the game is in the first person. That should be very, very interesting. Now, cyberware category, such as like some of the cyberware, will require the RipperDoc services in order to install it into the V. But there will be some cyberware modifications which we might put into ourselves on the spot. For example, while only RipperDoc can install the mechanics of the Mantis blade into our arms, such as the blades coming out of your arms, right? Afterwards, the blades itself can be detached and replaced on our own. But first, we'll have to find the right types of blades to replace it with. So, it's actually nice, basically, not every time you need to go to a doctor, wherever, and replace the blades as an example to something else. We will be able to install the Sandevinstant upgrade, which will allow us to move as fast as the animals we saw in a deep dive video, making everything around us slower in the process, with the exception of those fast enemies, whose speed up the animations are then replaced by regular moving animations. While from the player's perspective, it's something expected and normal for an animation team, simply replacing a replacement like that was a huge technological challenge, but they just refuse to take a shortcut on that and deliver. Basically, what I'm talking about, you know the side steps that you can do and you can be very quick about it? Yeah, so basically you're always going to be on your toes, so you're always going to be very, very quick. V starts with a basic set of the augments, which will include translator as well, but at the start of the game it will only translate the most common language in the Night City, like Spanish, Japanese, and so on. But to be able to understand less common languages like Creole, I don't know what that is, you will have to buy errata upgrades for the translation first, which is apparently a part of the Kiroshi. By the way, Kiroshi is the eyes that you can actually implement. We actually saw that in 50 minutes gameplay. That's actually interesting. I like that. I like the way you can't exactly understand a lot of other people, unless of course if you get this implementations for the translation for you to understand. The other last parts of the bullet points, right, about the modding, they want to add modding tools to the game, but they are not ready to make any declarations about that yet. Basically, you will be mod the shit out of the game, so that's going to be extremely exciting to see and how far they will be able to pull that off. And as well, I cannot imagine how the community will be able to react to it and what they would be able to come up with as well. Now, regarding of the old version of chipping in being included in the game or as a soundtrack in some form, The answer was for us to wait and see, and they're aiming to make as many people as happy as possible. It also been said that they are going to say more about the game's music in general very soon. Basically more about the music, soundtracks and such. Right, we don't have real concrete confirmation about that, but still do expect something of that front. Now, the diversity of the NPC's character models will be certainly much greater than in The Witcher 3, and they made an insane amount of them. However, there is still a possibility that due to memory limitations, they might not be able to pull all the unique models they made in the game, and might be forced to make some of the compromises. But they work hard to ensure the distinctive look for as many NPCs as possible without completely tanking the game's performance. That's kinda sucks, man. Wish I would rather get this game on PlayStation 5 or on PC. So actually that does not really make some, wouldn't be a big difference, because if the game is implemented as to the consoles, of course there's a lot of things that just simply not going to be able to be transitioned to the PC, because there's a lot of people that like to play on the PC, but their rigs are not as high end as other people as well. So there's always going to be some kind of compromise, unfortunately. Man, this game would have been lovely to see how it will perform on a PlayStation 5, and how much more can CD Projekt Red implement it as well. That would be very interesting to see. Alright, I think that's that. There were so many interesting bullet points about this. I definitely wanted to even make a separate video about this, and here we are. And there's actually a little bit more talks regarding it. Like constantly, there's always been more information talking a little bit about it. For example, just to elaborate, person asking the questions mentioned that he heard that there will be acid rains, like I already touched on, in the game, and then ask about the potential weather effects, like maybe snow or tsunami. Then, in response, Dev denied the snow and tsunami being in the game, but didn't say anything about the acid rain, which just makes me kind of makes me believe that the acid rain part is true. We don't know, obviously, how much of an extent will that be, though. There's also one last thing I want to mention of bullet point. There was also a question about the melee combat, including blades that I touched on. They ensured us that they are not treating that as a side thing, but as a full-fledged out gameplay style with its own progression path. The developers stated that they are putting a lot of work into that of the aspect of the game as well. In the gameplay, there's been mention of the usage of the nano wire. You guys might know, basically you pull out of your hands and you have that nano wire. There seem to be at least two types of attacks: horizontal, the faster one, and the vertical, the stronger ones. You can combine those with the sliding and jumping moves, which can be potentially makes for some of the nice combos. It seems like you also have more control over your weapon than in The Witcher 3, since you can just prepare it for attack by holding the button, then release it when you want to attack, which should allow higher level of precision for your strikes. Now, the dismemberment system was also greatly improved. After slicing some dude's leg, he went down, but was still alive for a short while before passing out, well, to his inevitable death, or whoever else tries to help him out after, well, whatever the reason. Now, there's so much more information, guys. I'm just trying to go through, hopefully it made sense to the bullet points of what I was trying to get at. God damn, this video has been long enough already, I personally think so. We're going to half an hour length. This is not normal. If you want to hear more of these bullet points and more about the game, I'm more than happy to do so. Just tell me down in the comments, and I will do my best to explain them all. Now, I do apologize about the very basic of the gameplay wise. In the background, you're just watching this, 50 minutes gameplay in the background. It is a long video. So yes, I do appreciate you listening into the commentary, and thank you again so much for watching. Like and subscribe as always, and yeah, I see you guys all later.